Let me ask you something very personal. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. They talked over you, they dismissed your ideas, they treated you like you didn't matter. Now tell me, what did you do? Did you argue back? Did you try to explain yourself? Did you try harder to prove your worth? If yes, then I want you to stop right there. Because that reaction, that desperate urge to speak, to defend, to justify, that is exactly what's keeping you powerless. The most dangerous, the most respected, the most successful people on this planet have one thing in common. And it is not their money, it is not their intelligence, it is not even their hard work. It is their silence. Today, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how silence, real, calculated, conscious silence, is the most powerful weapon you have never used. Stay until the end, because the last concept I share, it will completely change how you carry yourself for the rest of your life. So, who exactly needs to understand the power of silence? I'll tell you who. The person who works hard every single day but still doesn't get the respect they deserve? The person who speaks the truth but nobody listens? The person who is genuinely talented but gets overlooked again and again? That's who this is for. Now, here's the big problem this idea solves. Most of us were taught that communication means talking. We were told, speak up, be bold, express yourself, don't hold back. And yes, there's truth in that. But here's what nobody told you. Every word you speak is also information you're giving away. Every reaction you show tells the world exactly how to push your buttons. Every time you over-explain yourself, you're silently saying, I need your approval to feel okay. And the world, people, workplaces, relationships, they respond to that. Now here's the biggest mistake people make. They confuse silence with weakness. They think that if you stay quiet, you're losing, that if you don't defend yourself, you're accepting defeat. But the truth is the complete opposite. Silence, used correctly, is a power move. It is control. It is strategy. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to prove that to you. Let's talk about the first big idea. Silence is not absence. It is presence. Here's what I mean. There was once a young executive, smart guy, always the first one to speak in meetings. He had opinions about everything. Every time his boss presented an idea, he'd jump in immediately, agreeing, adding, suggesting. He thought that's how you get noticed. But he wasn't getting promoted. Meanwhile, there was another guy on his team, quieter. He barely spoke in the first half of any meeting. He just listened. He observed. He took notes. And then, when he finally spoke, maybe once or twice, the whole room stopped. Because when he opened his mouth, it meant something. Within 2 years, he was leading the division. That's the first lesson. The person who speaks the most is not the most powerful. The person who speaks at the right moment is. Now, why does this work psychologically? Here's the science behind it. When you react immediately to everything, your brain is on autopilot. You're responding from emotion, and people around you can sense that. They can sense the nervousness in your rushed responses. They can sense the insecurity in your need to be heard constantly. But when you pause, even for just a few seconds before responding, something shifts. People start wondering what you're thinking. That mystery creates gravity. That gravity creates respect. The common mistake people make, they think staying silent means having nothing to say. No, it means you're choosing what to say. There's a massive difference. Here's your practical action step for this idea. For the next 7 days, practice the 3-second rule in every conversation. Before you respond to anything, a question, a criticism, a comment, pause for exactly 3 seconds. Just breathe. Look at the person. Then speak. That's it. 3 seconds. You will be shocked at how differently people perceive you. You will notice them leaning in, waiting, paying more attention, because you've just become someone worth waiting for. We're just getting started. The next idea is about something most people do every single day, and it's silently destroying their power. Don't skip ahead. All right, second big idea. Every time you over-explain yourself, you're apologizing for existing. Let me tell you a story. Imagine 2 employees. Both are late to a meeting by exactly 10 minutes. The first one walks in and immediately starts. I'm so sorry, the traffic was terrible and my phone died and I was trying to reply to your email and then the elevator was stuck and The second one walks in, looks at the room, nods, takes their seat, and simply says, apologies for the delay. Now, in that room, who do you think had more authority? It wasn't the first person, even though their reasons were probably genuine. Here's why this matters.
When you over-explain, you are broadcasting anxiety. You're sending a subconscious signal that says, I'm afraid of your judgment. I need you to understand me. I need you to forgive me. And people's brains pick up on this signal instantly. Even if they don't consciously realize it, they begin to see you as someone who needs management, not someone who does the managing. Now, think about this in the context of money and career. How many times have you been in a negotiation, a salary discussion, a price negotiation, a business deal, and you felt this urge to justify your number? Well, I know it seems like a lot, but I've worked really hard and I have this experience, and I think maybe we could work out. Stop. Just stop. That over-explanation, it's the sound of your leverage collapsing. Powerful negotiators, and this is well documented in behavioral psychology, they state their position and then they go quiet. They let the silence sit. They let the other person fill the gap, and almost always the other person starts moving towards them. Because silence after a statement equals confidence, and confidence equals credibility. Here's how to connect this to your life right now. Think about where you most over-explain. Is it at work? In relationships? When someone questions your choices? Identify that one area, and starting today, practice saying your point clearly and directly, and then stopping. No add-ons, no soft landings. Just your honest thought stated once with quiet behind it. That quiet is your power. Coming up next, the psychological concept that separates people who win in life from people who just survive. And the uncomfortable truth? Most people are actively doing the opposite of what they should be. I'll show you the right way in just a moment. Here's core idea number 3, and this one is going to sting a little. The person who controls their emotions controls the room. The person who reacts controls nothing. Let me paint you a picture. You've seen this before. Someone criticizes you publicly, in a meeting, on social media, in front of people you respect. Your face goes red. Your heart beats faster. You feel this hot surge of anger rising up, and you want to respond right now. You want to defend yourself. You want to destroy their argument. You want to win. And here's what they're counting on. Because the moment you react emotionally, the moment you show that they got to you, they have already won, regardless of what you say next. This is one of the oldest psychological warfare tactics there is. Provoke someone, make them react, and then watch their credibility crumble as they try to explain themselves through clenched teeth. Now, here's the psychological insight that most people completely miss. Your emotional reaction is not a sign of passion. It's a map of your vulnerabilities. Every button you allow someone to push is a button you haven't healed yet. Every topic that makes you explode with anger is a wound that hasn't closed. Every person who can destabilize you with one comment has identified something in you that is not yet secure. The winners, the people who seem untouchable, they're not robots. They feel everything, but they've trained themselves to create a gap between the feeling and the response. That gap is where their power lives. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people spend their entire lives being controlled by other people's words. A comment from a stranger on the internet can ruin their entire day. One dismissive sentence from their boss can send them spiraling for a week. Their mood, their confidence, their productivity, all of it is outsourced to other people's opinions. That is not freedom. That is a prison with invisible bars. So what's the winning move? It's what I call the pause and pivot. When someone provokes you, and they will, your job is not to respond immediately. Your job is to create space. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this person worth my energy right now? Does their opinion change my reality? Almost always, the answer is no. And when you respond from that place of calm, or sometimes when you choose not to respond at all, you send a message louder than any argument ever could. You send the message, you don't have power over me. And that message, people remember it. This is why it separates winners from average people. Average people let the world write on them. Winners choose what they allow in. Stick with me. The next concept is the one that almost every summary of this topic gets completely wrong, and the way most people try to apply it actually makes them weaker. I'll show you the right way in just a moment.
All right. This is the concept that most people misunderstand. And I want to be very careful here, because getting this wrong can actually make your life worse. There are 2 types of silence, and they look exactly the same from the outside, but inside, they are completely different. The first is passive silence. This is silence born from fear. It's the silence of someone who doesn't speak up because they're afraid of rejection. It's staying quiet in a meeting because you don't believe your idea is good enough. It's swallowing your feelings because you're terrified of conflict. It's going along with things you disagree with because you need people to like you. This kind of silence doesn't build power. It destroys you from the inside. People who practice passive silence look calm on the surface, but underneath, they're full of resentment, self-doubt, and unexpressed truth. And eventually, that bottled-up energy explodes. Or worse, it turns inward and becomes depression, burnout, and a deep feeling of invisibility. The second is strategic silence. This is what everything we've talked about today is really about.
Strategic silence is the silence of someone who chooses not to speak, not because they're afraid, but because they understand timing. They understand that sometimes your silence is your strongest statement. They understand that not every battle deserves your attention, not every provocation deserves a response, and not every question deserves an immediate answer. The difference is inner state. One comes from fear, the other comes from confidence. Here's how people misuse this concept. They read about the power of silence and they think, okay, I'll just stop talking. I'll be mysterious. I'll ghost people. I'll withhold my thoughts and emotions and become this closed-off, unreadable person. And then they wonder why their relationships fall apart, why their team stops trusting them, why people find them cold and unapproachable. Because that's not strategic silence. That's just emotional withdrawal, and it's just as destructive as over-explaining. The correct way to apply it. Strategic silence is selective, not total. You speak fully and openly when it matters, with the people who matter, in the moments that require honesty, when your voice can genuinely make a difference. But you choose not to react when someone is trying to destabilize you. You choose not to over-explain when your work already speaks for itself. You choose not to fill every silence with words just because discomfort is present. Think of it like this. A master chess player doesn't make a move just to make a move. Every move is deliberate. Every pause is part of the strategy. The board is always being read, not just reacted to. That's how you want to move through life. Not reactive, not withdrawn, but deliberate, present, calm, and deeply confident in your own voice, which is exactly why you don't need to use it all the time. Okay, this is where we stop theorizing and start executing, because knowledge without action is just entertainment, and I don't want you to just feel inspired. I want you to actually change. Here is your 7-day silence practice plan. Day 1, observe before you speak. Today, in every conversation you have, make it a rule. Listen completely before you respond. No interrupting, no thinking about your reply while they're still talking. Just listen. Notice what changes. Day 2, audit your over-explanations. Every time you catch yourself adding justifications to a simple statement, stop. Write it down. By the end of the day, you'll have a clear picture of where your insecurity leaks out. Day 3, practice the 3-second pause. We talked about this. For every response today, text, in person, in meetings, pause 3 seconds before you speak. No exceptions. Feel how different that brief moment of stillness changes your energy. Day 4, identify your trigger points. What are the topics, people, or situations that make you react emotionally? Write them down. Just naming them is the first step to not being controlled by them. Day 5, respond to one provocation with silence. Today, when something or someone tries to provoke a reaction from you, a passive-aggressive comment, a critical remark, an annoying message, choose not to respond, not because you're afraid, but because you're in control. Feel how it feels to not take the bait. Day 6, speak with intention. Today, before you speak in any important situation, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this the right time? Is this the best way? Speak only when the answer to all 3 is yes. Day 7, review and reset. Look back at the week. Where did you hold your power? Where did you give it away? What felt different? Write down your 3 biggest insights. These are the beginning of your new default settings. Remember, this isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming intentional. It's about no longer leaking your energy into situations that don't deserve it. 7 days, small shifts, real results. I want to leave you with one final thought, and I need you to really sit with this. Somewhere along the way, maybe in childhood, maybe in school, maybe in a relationship that hurt you, you learned that your silence meant you weren't enough, that if you didn't speak up, you'd be forgotten, that if you didn't perform, people would leave, that your worth was measured in how much you could say, do, produce, explain. And so you've been talking ever since, explaining, justifying, performing, filling the silence because the silence felt like danger. But here's what I want you to understand today. Your silence is not emptiness, it is depth. The most powerful rivers run quiet and deep. The most dangerous storms start in stillness. The most respected people in any room are rarely the loudest ones. You do not owe the world a constant performance of yourself. You are allowed to be quiet. You are allowed to observe. You are allowed to choose, carefully, deliberately, what you share, what you react to, and what you simply let pass. That is not weakness. That is sovereignty. And the moment you truly feel that, not just understand it, but feel it in your chest, something shifts permanently. You stop chasing approval, you stop fearing judgment, you stop needing every silence to be filled. And in that space, in that quiet confidence, you become exactly the person you've always been trying to become. Not through noise, through stillness. All right, we've covered a lot today. If this video made you think differently, even just one thing clicked, then do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. It takes literally 1 second, and it tells me to keep creating content like this for you. Subscribe if you haven't already. I put out videos every week on mindset, psychology, and self-mastery, and you do not want to miss what's coming next. And drop a comment below telling me, what was your biggest takeaway from today's video? Was it the 3-second rule? The difference between passive and strategic silence? The 7-day plan? Tell me. I read every single comment. This was your reminder that silence isn't the absence of power. It is the power. I'll see you in the next one.